All right. Now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Katerina Hencova. And Katerina is with Continuum Consulting, which, who is a sponsor. Katerina is absolutely a dynamo. And we're so glad that she's recovered from COVID. And so we rescheduled from last week. But Katerina has so many gifts, and I'm so grateful that she's willing to share them. Katerina has been a certified financial planner, and she's really pretty much top in her field, and she's breaking the glass ceiling left and right. And what I love about, one of the many things I love about Katerina is that she focuses on helping others, whether it's with salary negotiations or just, job search in general. She has made it her mission to pay it forward and help people, and which is really aligned with our community. And she's doing some great things out there. And so we're really grateful to Katerina. And so here's how it's going to go today. You're going to ask questions in the chat, and then if we have time, we'll do an open mic. But here's what we can do. Katerina is going to cover a lot of things, a lot about what we need to do to make sure our 2022 is the best year ever, whether that's in job search, whether that's in our finances. And she's going to kind of give us as much information as she can on what's happening in the markets, because we all know that it's kind of crazy out there. And she's becoming even more familiar with crypto. So crypto and SPACs, and there's just all kinds of things. And so Katerina, I am so grateful that you're here. And I so appreciate in advance all of the wonderful information you're going to impart. And thanks for being so open to take our questions.
My pleasure.
Katerina, take it away.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to say thank you for your patience and waiting a whole week to do this. I am still coming out of COVID, but feeling good enough to be with you this morning. So let's talk about how we can make 2022 our best year yet. So many of you know, and maybe have done that yourself, at the beginning of the year, people usually will set a New Year's resolution. New Year's resolution is a firm decision to either do or not do something. So that could be, I'm going to give up sugar for this year. I'm going to give up alcohol. I'm going to exercise every single day. Anyone wants to take a guess, and you can just put it through the chat. What is the most common New Year's resolution?
Losing weight.
There we go. So losing weight actually is the number one most common resolution. Unfortunately, more than half of New Year's resolutions fail. And that's according to a statistic at discoverhappyhabits.com. And the reason for that is that when people set that resolution, it may have already been unrealistic to begin with, or they approached it with either all or nothing. So if I'm giving up sugar and I had a cake at a birthday party, I had just broke my resolution, and I might just throw the whole thing out. And for the rest of the year, I am back to eating sugar. When they set the resolution, they also may have not have any strategy or action plan on how they were going to achieve it. According to the statistic, some people even forget that they had a resolution. So if I, let's say, decide I'm giving up wine for the year, and then I forget and I have a glass of wine at a party, again, there goes my resolution, and I am back to drinking. And the reason that people are not fully invested in their resolution is because they did not know their true why they even set the resolution in the first place. So they weren't fully invested. A goal, on the other hand, is a point of a person's ambition or effort. It's an aim for a desired result. So setting goals can actually provide us with the direction on how to achieve the desired results. I think someone's unmuted. Thank you. Goals also help us stay focused and continue to motivate us. Goals can also give us a sense of a personal satisfaction and purpose in life, which will then give us control over our future. And according to John Assaraf from myneurogym.com, he says that while we achieve our goals, even if they're very small, it increases our confidence, which then restructures our cells in our brain to become massively more and more successful. And that's just because we're getting very confident about what we've achieved so far, and we're continuing to set new goals. So as we talked about resolution not really panning out, that's because there wasn't a proper plan in place to achieve those resolutions. And we know that poor planning leads to poor performance. And none of you are poor performers here. And most certainly, none of you are poor planners. If I have anything to do with it, you're all excellent planners. So what's really important when we're setting a plan for how we achieve our goals is to have an absolute crystal clear vision. And that's a vision of what it will look like when you achieve that goal. Either what is that thing going to look like, what is your life going to look like when you get there. This is also how you know that you have achieved that goal. So again, according to John Assaraf, he says that when we have an absolutely crystal clear vision of what it's going to look like, it's stored in our left prefrontal cortex. And from there, your brain is actually looking for opportunities in your day-to-day life and in the world on how to help you to achieve those goals. So it's pretty powerful. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, he even recommends that we get into the feeling of what we will experience once we achieve that goal. And it's not just thinking, oh yeah, I'll be excited. I will feel accomplished. I will feel like a badass. It's literally having to sit down and embody the feeling that we will feel once we achieve that goal. Because again, your brain doesn't know the difference between whether you're just wishing to achieve it or whether you already have. And if you get into the state as if you're already there, this is his key to manifestation, actually, whether you believe it or not. But it can restructure your cells to get you closer to that goal. It will increase the chances for that goal materializing in a physical world. So now that we have the goal, it's really important to know how we achieve that goal. And my rule of thumb are 3 specific action steps that you'll take to get there. Depending on your goal, you may require only 2 action steps, or maybe you need more depending on what the goal is. Make sure it's not so overwhelming that it's either holding you back or preventing you from achieving it. And these aligned actions may actually require a behavioral change. It can require a series of new habits. And this is the difference between the people that do achieve goals and who don't achieve goals. You literally have to become almost a different person. You challenge yourself to become that person who achieves goals. And that is through a series of new habits. And John Assaraf says that if you lay out this clear path, it makes it easier for your brain to achieve it, because you've kind of given your brain the map on how to do it. And again, we're back to the why. So Simon Sinek has a great exercise. It's called the 7 Whys, and it's a series of 7 questions for why you want what you want. And at the end of this exercise, you find out whether you're truly passionate about that goal or whether it's simply just an interest. If you're only interested in achieving that specific goal, you may choose the path of least resistance, something very easy. And if it doesn't work out, you're not so invested. But if you are determined and committed to achieving your goal, let's say it's coming out of a passion, there is really nothing that will stand in your way. So I recommend that you ask yourself and figure out why you want it so badly. Make sure that,
Katerina, real quick, are you using the slides? Because it's still on the first one.
no way.
Yeah.
I am on 3rd.
Yeah, no, it's not advancing. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you for letting me know. And I don't know how to do this.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna reshare.
I like the Simon Sinek. I've heard of that before. And there you go.
That's working.
Can you see poor planning?
Yes.
Okay, amazing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna skip forward. Can you
And
see
we're going to
personal
share these
goals?
slides with everyone. So that's
Can you see personal goals now?
yes.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Thank
we're
you.
on the why. So when you select your why, it must be bigger than the fear and the self-limiting belief that's holding you back from moving toward your goal. And knowing the why will also eliminate the uncertainty and the lack of confidence around moving forward. It will help you overcome obstacles and any self-sabotage. Procrastination is definitely a form of sabotage, self-sabotage. So how can we achieve our personal goals? Gretchen Rubin, who is a happiness researcher, an author, and also has a podcast like most public figures today, she has this exercise called 22 for 22 list. And last year it was 21 for 21. But what she does is list 22 things that she wants to see happen this year. And some of them are extremely ambitious, where she challenges herself, and some are quite easy. So let's say redo my closet, or get a new wardrobe, or paint the front door, whatever that may be. So some of these may be a one-time undertaking, or even a series of habits that she'll continue to do for a number of years. And there isn't a right way to make it. You just really think about what you want the new year to hold, and you write it down. And why is it important that it's in a written form? So according to a neuroscience article in Forbes, there is power to external storage. And that's because it's easy to access and you can review it anytime. Imagine if you have it taped to your fridge, or it's hanging next to your monitor at your office. You are constantly looking at it. There is also something about encoding, which is a biological process by which things that we perceive travel to our brain's hippocampus, and that's where they're analyzed. So remember I talked about the left prefrontal cortex that looks for opportunities to help you achieve goals. This is very similar. You're telling your brain that this is your mission, and your brain is not going to operate in any other way. And writing it physically down improves that encoding because of our hand-to-brain connection. There's also something about work that we generate ourselves. It's called the generation effect. And we memorize the stuff that we generate ourselves way better. So it's just stored in your brain more effectively. This is an example of Gretchen's 22 for 22 template. So it's very simple. It just has 22 lines, and you can rework it, redo it, rewrite it, however many times you want, till you get it down to the 22 items that you truly want to see for yourself. And pay attention to this blank box over here. My word of the year is. So this is where you can write even an affirmation or a mantra for the year. I'll share something personal with you. My term for this year, my affirmation for 22 is deep connection. And it may sound extremely cliche, but to me, deep connection is vague enough that it has a meaning in several areas of my life. For example, it's a deep connection to the ocean. This year, I am challenging myself to dive even deeper. And also at night, because there are different animals that come out at night that I don't get to see during the day. So this way, I get to meet new creatures in the ocean and get deeper connected to what I love so much. It's also a deep connection to my spirituality. I'm planning to take it further this year, learn to truly rely on myself, trust my intuition, and just be deeper connected to myself. It's also strengthening the connections with people that are already in my life. And it's also a deeper connection to my work. Over the last 7 years, maybe 8 years, I have really worked hard to turn my work into more than just a job and turn it into a purpose to have an impact on communities and people's lives. So this year, I'm going to challenge myself to take it even further and see how much more change and impact I can create in this world. So I really encourage you to think about what is meaningful to you, what is important to you for this year, and write that affirmation down. Have it displayed in front of you somewhere. And if you feel so inclined, share it with me. I'm curious to see what you come up with. So affirmations, they may sound like some foo-foo stuff, but lately they have been becoming way more prominent. And affirmation, by definition, is designed to encourage an optimistic mindset. It's literally an act of confirming something to be true. So while I was suffering through COVID, I kept telling myself that I am healthy. And I wasn't telling myself I'm healing, I'm recovering, I'm becoming healthy. I was literally telling myself that I am healthy. I wanted my brain to believe that, because if I told myself, oh God, I'm so sick, oh my God, I feel like I'm dying, how would that make me feel? Even worse. I would not get better, and I would most likely feel like I'm dying. So what we say to ourselves is extremely, extremely important. And Mel Robbins, who's a motivational speaker, she actually says the same thing. What you say to yourself matters. And she even suggests that we change our passwords to the affirmations. Why is that? It's because as we're logging into our accounts, several accounts throughout the day, bank account, email, our Peloton account, and whatever else, we are having to type that affirmation because it's our password. So we are constantly reminding ourselves of that positive, optimistic thought and setting our mindset for success. So if you are in a job search and you're looking for your dream job, tell yourself that you already have that job. If your resolution or a goal was to lose weight and get in shape, I am strong and fit. Just tell yourself that you're already there. Mel Robbins also developed the high five habit. Has anyone heard of that? And just type in yes into the chat if you have. Oh, great, Frank. Christy, nice. Oh, Bill, I love that affirmation. Amazing, Wendy. Okay, I'm really glad to hear this. So the high five habit is a science-backed method to immediately boost your mood, confidence, inspiration, and the support that you need for the day. And this sounds totally crazy. She also admits that it's absolutely ridiculous. But after you brush your teeth in the morning, you look yourself in the bathroom mirror, you set that affirmation for the day, whatever it is. I am productive. I am making a ton of money today. And then you high five yourself in that mirror. You high five your own reflection. And what it does, it seals the affirmation that you had just communicated to yourself, and it silences that critic. You know, that gremlin that reminds us of, we don't have a job today, we're not making enough money, we didn't send the resume out yesterday. It silences that critic, it shuts it up. And what your brain does is sends you a drop of dopamine, and your nervous system gives you a jolt of energy. So I challenge you to try this for 5 days and see what happens. If nothing happens, you can go back to doing what you've been doing. Mel Robbins swears that it will change your life. So I even would love to hear from you in 5 days. Shoot me an email and let me know what happened. I will admit I did that this morning for the first time ever. All right, career goals. So if you have worked in the corporate goals, you may have heard the acronym SMART goals. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So this is just, the SMART is just a little guide on when we set our goals to make sure that we can actually achieve them. They're specific enough, they're measurable, we have a tracking tool for tracking our progress, they're achievable and realistic, and we have some sort of a time frame for when we want to achieve them. So for example, I want to send out 10 resumes every week. So by Friday, 10 resumes have to be out. It's really important, again, as we've said, to have a clearly stated vision. And for career goals, that could easily be a list of target companies. Years ago, we met a woman through the boot camp, and she came into our office to get her comprehensive financial plan at no cost, which is what we offer. And I asked her, how is the job quest going? And she looked at me kind of surprised and said, you know, all the companies on my list, I'm interviewing with every single one of them. So that's the power of having it in a written form. And those companies were large, global, publicly traded companies where you would think this is very hard to even get an interview. She was interviewing in all of them. So really, if you are serious, create that list. If you are currently employed, but perhaps want to do a different job within your company or even switch a company, focus on the specifics of the role that you want to be doing, the tasks that are required, the responsibilities that you have, the teams that you would lead, or even the impact or the change that you would be creating, and get very, very specific. And you can also apply that to business. If you're not going back to work because you want to work for yourself, that's perfectly fine. Be very clear about your business idea. By the way, John Assaraf is a great business guru. If you don't follow him, I recommend that you do. And as with everything, know your why. Why do you want that job? Why do you want to work at that company? Why do you want that business? If you are choosing that just because the job is secure and it pays well versus a passion, you will approach that search with a completely different attitude. And I will also say you have a higher chance at getting a job that you are truly passionate about than just for job security. It's totally helpful to have a role model and just follow and repeat what they did. So this could be a public figure as well, and you just model how they got there, what they did. If it's someone in your life that you know and you can sit them down for a cup of coffee and ask them questions, take advantage of that. What you will learn through that are all the obstacles that they had to overcome and how they did it. You may even learn about what continued to motivate them to keep pushing forward as they were coming up against these obstacles. And it's very, very important to be supported by like-minded people. And it's not just for accountability, which that's very helpful to have an accountability partner or someone who is striving to do the same thing, and you both can support each other in that. Mentor or coach who's keeping you on track is extremely valuable as well. But according to Jim Rohn, we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And when I heard that phrase, I actually had to pause and take a look at how I spend my time and with whom. And whether we notice it consciously or not, someone who is less ambitious than us, if we spend a lot of our time with that person, will actually hold us back from our progress. And again, consciously, we may not notice it, but if we take a look at our progress, we may notice that we're not moving forward as fast as we possibly could. And it's very important to celebrate small successes. If you set a small goal for yourself, and let's say it is send out 10 resumes this week. On Friday, when you've sent out your last resume, make sure you celebrate yourself. Don't just tell yourself, well, I did what I was supposed to. That's good enough. That shouldn't deserve any celebration. It does, because it continues to motivate you for the next week or for the next goal. It's kind of like you're patting yourself on the back. So what can we do around financial goals for this year? Well, I am very, very biased. So I will say, have a plan. And this plan will consist of short and long-term objectives. So that could be even objectives for the next 3 months, 6 months, or the whole year. It could even be beyond the whole year. It could be a retirement, which is what we plan for most of the time. As you have your goals, make sure they are very clearly stated and develop your strategy on how you will achieve them. What's really helpful about financial plans is they can be modeled and projected out for the future. So we can literally see what the financial picture looks like 30 years from now. If we don't like that picture, we have an opportunity to make adjustments today to improve that picture and make sure that we hit all of our goals. And again, the adjustments today may require a behavioral change, maybe a new habit, or getting rid of a bad habit that has not worked for us anymore, creating some sort of an action that's aligned with our goal. But having that clarity for the future and knowing what actions you have to take today is extremely powerful. It's even easier than in our career goals or personal goals. There isn't a projection tool that can show us what our goals will look like. So this is actually a very easy thing to do. And as we see that our goals are working out in the future, we may even get more confident around our finances and set new goals or create new visions for our life. So part of your financial plan will, of course, be investments. And I am very limited on what I can say in a forum like this without giving a blank investment recommendation. So I will say, when you are investing, be very aware of how you're investing and why. And sure, people will say, well, I invest to make money. Sure, but what do you want the money to do for you? How much do you need and when? Just be very clear what you need, when you'll have it, how you'll get there. In your investment portfolio, always remain diversified according to your risk tolerance. So this will be different for each person, and that's absolutely okay. There is no wrong or right answer. Just make sure you know what your investment risk tolerance is and make sure your portfolio is aligned with that. Because we are in a really funky year and inflation is high, rates are going up, there is a lot of talk around taxes as well. It's important to have anti-inflation assets in our portfolio. Because I am registered, I cannot start listing off types of investments on here. So just explore what anti-inflation assets are and make sure they're in your portfolio. If you don't know or need some guidance, feel free to reach out. And I also recommend that you take a look at socially responsible investing and alternative investments. So alternative investments are also an asset class, and they are very often forgotten in investment portfolios. In a 401k, you most likely don't even have access to it. And the alternative investments for a long time were not fully accessible to the average investor. You needed either a high minimum to get in or had to go through a hedge fund and so forth. But these days, they're way more accessible in form of even a mutual fund. And they are, how do I say this without violating any rules? They're very good in down markets. I'm not saying markets will go down, but that this is how they work the best. And socially responsible investing, which includes environment, social responsibility, governance, also diversity, equity, and inclusion. These types of investments often, or I should say in the past, caused you to sacrifice a few points of a return. And that's why people didn't really invest in them, because they rather had the money and didn't care so much about protecting the environment and so forth. But if we take a look at who our investors are today, and the fact that millennials and Gen Z represent the highest portion of our workforce, we also take a look at how that demographic and those two generations, how they invest. And social responsibility is really at the forefront of their mind. So we have seen a lot of assets flooding toward SRI, which now doesn't really sacrifice the return very much. It can actually beat your regular portfolio. So I encourage you to learn about that if you are trying to overcome the challenge of inflation. And also this year, if you're already working, I encourage you to renegotiate your compensation. There is a very high chance that if you've been in a job for a while, that you have taken on new tasks, new responsibilities, but your pay maybe had not gone up at the same rate. So take a look at the work you're doing, even benchmark it to it's currently being compensated at in the marketplace, or what a competitor would pay for that role, and renegotiate your pay with your employer. You can also do that same thing with a contracting rate. If you are a business owner and we are at a high inflationary period, there is a very high chance that your overhead may have gone up. It's costing you more to run your business. So it's totally natural that you adjust your rates as well. And if you are in transition and you are looking for a job and interviewing, start practicing your negotiation skills now, because then when you get an offer, you will be ready. And if you need help with that, feel free to reach out to me, because that's what I literally coach. So here are the resources that I have used to put this presentation together. A lot of these people I actually follow, read, and I do what they say. Gretchen Rubin is somewhat new to me, but John Assaraf, Joe Dispenza, Mel Robbins, I have been a big fan of them for many years. And Discover Happy Habits, Develop Good Habits, those are both good sites for goal setting, productivity, even developing a morning routine, so you do get into that productivity state. And you can even create vision boards. Canva.com allows you to create a digital vision board if you're more of a visual person and want to have something in front of you than just a sheet of paper with a bunch of words. So this is all I have for you today. I'm happy to take questions. And before we get to that, I just want to reiterate our offer. Most of you already know, but we prepare comprehensive financial plans for anyone who's in transition at no cost whatsoever. if you haven't taken up on the offer, feel free to do so, especially now in this year and with this motivation for new goals. If you need someone to either build your goals into a financial plan or just have a financial plan built, feel free to reach out. We just ask 3 things. Number 1, don't tell people we do free planning. That's not the case. Give us the information that we need to do a good job for you. And if you've liked the work that we've done, please spread the word and tell your friends about us. Christy, do we have any questions in the queue?
We don't have any questions yet. So everyone, please put your questions in. And but I'll get things started. You know me. With the whole alternative investing, I've never heard that term specifically the way you described it. So can you explain more about what that is? Like what?
Sure.
What examples or whatever?
Yes, absolutely. So most people know stocks and bonds, and when they have a portfolio built, it will comprise of stocks and bonds. Now, alternative investments should totally be in the mix. So instead of, let's say, 80-20 portfolio, you have maybe 70 stock, 20 bond, and 10% alternative investments. And the alternative investments is more of a style. So the managers that manage alternative investments, they do lots of different things, and they're usually the opposite or almost contrary to what every other money manager is doing. So we know the markets are not efficient. There's a lot of mispricings that happens throughout the trading day. And the managers of alternative investments look for these inaccuracies to make a transaction and squeeze out return. The other thing they look for is short selling. For example, there's a lot of short selling happening. Mergers and arbitrage. And trying to think of something else. If you buy a mutual fund, it's very likely that they're invested in a hedge fund. So these type of transactions happen within the alternative investment sleeves. And the 2 big areas are alpha opportunistic and absolute return. If you hear those terms, you know that it's an alternative investment.
Okay, so would art be an alternative investment?
Art, like in Kathy Wood.
Yeah. Like artists, like paintings and things like that.
Okay, I see. So that's more of a commodity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, if it's an NFT, because it's art, that's
that's okay. So that's another thing. Okay, so let's talk about the NFTs and the crypto. Because I mean, hey, now there's crypto stadium. So something's happening in the crypto field, and that many of us are really curious. And so Bill Lazar asked, what does NFT stand for?
Non-fungible token. That's
and so how is the investment world looking at crypto? I mean, it seems like crypto could be an alternative investment, right?
Yes, yeah, and I'm really not allowed to say that. I mean, it is. And, the SEC, FINRA, the financial industry has just not adjusted for that. So it's not regulated, with my licenses that I have, I'm not able to offer it, obviously, but I have nothing against crypto, especially if you're looking to diversify your portfolio and you maybe allocate 3 to 5% of your money into crypto, and you are willing to take the risk, there is nothing wrong with that. With any investing, just be prepared to lose that money. Most likely you will not, but it's like you can buy, a stock of a startup or a SPAC and may lose the money. So crypto is not any more risky than other investments.
Okay, and so the NFTs, what surprises me is that, I mean, some random things are making a lot of money on the market right now, in the NFT world. And so, like, somebody creates, there was this one individual that had a self-portrait, a picture every day for a month or whatever it was. And then and he's sold it for well over $1 million.
Yeah, so it's art, and to those that it appeals to, they'll buy it, and you can literally create anything, and if somebody likes it, they'll buy it. The NFT, what it does, because it's digital and could be altered, the NFT kind of solidifies the integrity of it, and it cannot be altered. Now, if you pay a physical painting, it's most likely not being altered, because that would ruin the value of it. With a digital art, it's a little different. You can modify it, and that's why it is kind of secured with the NFT to protect the integrity of that art piece.
And so where is the NFT certificate stored?
I actually don't know that.
Okay.
But there is a platform, kind of like Coinbase, is for crypto. There is a platform for NFTs, and it's kept with your password, similar to crypto. The intricacies and details of it, I'm not familiar with.
Okay. And then Bill Laser asked the SPACs, and it's SPAC. So can you share a little bit more? I know a lot of people know about SPACs, but not everyone knows about SPACs. And so I use WAG, the dog walking and dog sitting. And I just got an email from them that said that they joined a SPAC. And so it's like, it's really interesting that so many companies are, kind of joining forces. That's how I describe it, joining forces and setting up SPACs.
Yeah, so SPAC literally stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Company. And it starts off as a shell company that's trading publicly. The company does not have any business activity yet, but the shares are issued most of the time for $10, all of them. Sometimes it's 25, depending on the value of the company. And from the day that the company goes public, the company has 24 months to raise capital and acquire a company that's then going to become the publicly traded company. Now, if they don't raise the money in the 2 years, they have to refund everything that they have raised so far, plus 2 to 3% penalty that they pay. So the reason SPACs are so risky is that when you're buying the shares and investing in that shell company, you have no idea what they're going to do and how they're going to do. You may know the type of industry or the type of sector that they focus on. So let's say telehealth, there are some with entertainment, DraftKings, for example, it's a SPAC. 23andMe went public through a SPAC now. So for the 24 months, you really have no idea who they're going to acquire. So you're just betting on the people who are behind the SPAC. And you have seen a lot of celebrities, athletes forming SPACs to kind of gain popularity, to raise the funds, and then down the road acquire most likely what's a startup. And then that startup becomes a publicly traded company.
Okay, what other questions do we have?
Katerina, this is Frank. Hello.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
I have a question for you on the
Yes.
inflation currently that we are experiencing. Do you think this is more of a wage-driven inflation, which would be long-term, I would think, compared to a supply chain issue, or kind of like the weighting of that? What's your thoughts?
So in my opinion, it's the supply chain issue. And it started really in the pandemic, where some businesses became completely useless. and it drove the demand to the businesses that were essential. And it's created more demand within those industries that needed more supplies, and yet we were kind of in a pickle with getting our supplies over, especially when it's being mass produced in China most of the time. So that's kind of lasted through the pandemic. We know there's about 70 or 80 ships outside of Long Beach waiting to be unloaded. And I recently I have a guy who sells sheepskin, and it's imported from Australia. I've been buying from him for years. He told me that a container used to cost him $2,500 to bring his goods over. Now it's $12,000. And I noticed that my sheepskin is not inexpensive anymore. The price jumped up significantly. So this is what's driving the cost of goods up, because it's way more expensive to get them here. And there's also more demand than supply. So that's also driving the cost up. And the pressure on wages that we have experienced last year and continues into this year is due to the fact that when companies laid off people in 2020 and then started rehiring in 2021, those folks didn't necessarily return. And there's still a big discrepancy between what employers are offering and what candidates are looking for. And because those two are not meeting, people are not going back to work under the same circumstances. They want to change. They want to see something different. So now companies not having enough workforce, they're having to up the salaries to really attract talent, or they're having to up the salaries of the people who are already working there. So that's what's driving salaries up as well. And we know that if people earn more and they spend more, that's also a contribution to high inflation. Does that answer your question, Frank?
Yeah, good. No, I agree with you. I think this is a bubble and will not be long lasting, but we got to get through it.
Right.
Hey, Katerina, someone's asked me, and I get the confusion here as well. So we know it's good to have a financial plan, but what about having a financial plan for a specific year versus a financial plan in general? Because, and especially with this year, and I know, I mean, gosh, the stock market is going crazy, and the tech stocks that I was doing really well in are not doing as well now. And, and so how does that factor into, this whole financial plan? And, yes, there's a financial plan for the long term, but what about this specific year?
Absolutely. So I believe that anyone who has a single financial goal should have a financial plan. And if you've had a financial plan and you review it every 2 years and you update it, you're doing the right thing. If you've never had a financial plan built, I would say this year, have it done. There is so much uncertainty that's happening, especially if you're in between jobs and you don't know when you're going to work again. And then we have all of these looming things in the market and the economy and the administration. Just have something put together just so you get clarity for what the future holds. And from that point, once you have your financial plan built, you can have it reviewed every single year just to make sure that you are staying on track. If there is a change in your life, let's say you got married, divorced, had a child, lost a job, got a job, inherited money, started a business, these changes can be very easily built into the plan. The plan is updated, recalculated, projected out, and you continuously have your future financial picture ahead of you. And you know that you are moving forward in the direction that you want to go. And look, we lower the barrier. Like, we couldn't make it easier for you folks to get a financial plan. You don't owe us anything if you get one. And this is what we really love doing. We're doing it to help. There's no obligation for you to become a client. So if you have a financial goal, have a plan.
Okay, and that's helpful because I know that at least in my circle of friends, a lot of things that are being discussed is, okay, at what point do you feel comfortable to retire? And that whole, like, what's your number kind of thing. And it's not that we're sharing our number, but it's like the discussion about, hey, I mean, I'm getting to that age, right? It's inside, at least at some point, but so that whole, like, what's your number, I think is top of mind for many of us. The other question that someone sent to me is the whole goal setting. So there's that thought about start with the end in mind versus the SMART goals. Can you combine them, or?
Yeah, so they actually do go together. First, you're going to start with the vision. So what is that end goal? And that's starting with the end in mind. And then we can even cross-check our goal against the SMART, right? Is it specific? Is it measurable, achievable, realistic? And do I have a timeline for it? So they're not mutually exclusive. They can actually support each other.
Okay, great. And then Bill asks, can you explain how an ETF, exchange traded fund, differs from other types of investments?
So exchange traded funds is it trades like a stock, but it follows a specific series of stocks. So you can have, let's say, ETF for Israeli startups. Israel is known for tech startups, right? You can have an ETF that focuses just on those startups. What you're avoiding is having to buy every single stock in each company individually. This way, you kind of buy a fund and it has all of those companies in it. What's similar to an ETF is a index fund. It does exactly the same except for mutual funds. So the index funds, they trade like a mutual fund, meaning you get the price at the end of the closing day or the close of trading. With an ETF, you get the price in the intraday trading in that moment. Does that make sense? I saw thumbs up, Bill.
Yeah, I think so.
Great.
So. Okay, we are out of time, everyone, and let's give Katerina a round of applause for, even though she's still recovering, for being with us and sharing some great information. And Katerina, we know we're going to have you back during the year because the financial picture is so important to all of us. And you're our source of wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone. We'll see you next week. We have a great speaker, and Charlotte will be sending that out. And don't forget your bootcamp referrals. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And so have a great